I think the weather forecast in Bangalore perhaps factored in the fact that the Kiwis were in the mood to pour, and so they did, finishing this chase with very little trouble. They win this game by 5 wickets and pretty much seal that semi-final spot. 172 to chase, and they do it within 23.2 overs. They win this game by 5 wickets contributions from Conway, Mitchell, and Rachin Ravindra. Lots of 40s there, good enough for New Zealand to win a game that pretty much seals the deal for them. Much as expected, DK, wasn't it?
Right at the start, we felt that New Zealand were the team with the upper hand, and they batted exactly like that. It was beautiful to see them go about things in a positive manner. Conway amongst rounds. It was good to see Daryl Mitchell do his thing, and Rachin Ravindra, as usual, very good. Everybody contributed, including a small little cameo from Kane Williamson and a couple of lovely little shots by Tom Latham right at the end. But most importantly, it really was only a matter of time before we saw New Zealand take that fourth spot, and it looks like they will be holding on to this till the end of the league stages.
It has ended for them. So 5 wins and 4 losses for New Zealand. They'd won 4, then they lost 4, and their campaign is well and truly back on track with those 5 wins and a very, very healthy net run rate of plus 0.743. They should get that Q next to their name. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you call, this is the place where mathematicians have fun, not cricketers, because they will say that you win by 275 runs and I have to get you out in 3 overs and all sorts of calculations. But really, right now, for Afghanistan and Pakistan, I mean, the odds are now ridiculous.
Yeah.
Those, I mean, you're not saying Q because it's always theoretically possible.
Yeah.
But New Zealand are they're there.
A win for Sri Lanka would have meant that all 3 would have been in the race. Technically, it is still a 3-way race, but one can safely say that, I mean, the better of the 3 teams is pretty much going through.
India versus New Zealand, semi-final 1. South Africa versus Australia, semi-final 2. But I'll tell you what has happened. Sri Lanka losing like this has made things simpler for Bangladesh in qualifying for the Champions Trophy. They can afford to lose against Australia as long as it's not too bad. They should get through to that 8th place. Sri Lanka and Netherlands being 9th.
Let's bring that point table once again so that everyone gets an idea of what DK is trying to say. Remember, only 8 will qualify. Yes, DK.
Now, if you do see Bangladesh, unless they go below minus 1.42, they are safe. And that would be a massive sigh of relief for Bangladesh. They've gone through some tumultuous times. They've lost their captain as well. They've had a very, very poor World Cup. I remember saying many, many months ago on the same show that if Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are not in the running for the semi-final at the fag end of this tournament, they should be very disappointed. They've lost that battle a long time ago. But the Champions Trophy carrot was dangling, and Sri Lanka has made things a little easier for them.
Although Bangladesh will play Australia in their last league game, that is going to be held in Pune. Let's take a look at the remaining league stage fixtures. Remember, a total of 45 league games, 41 done, 4 to go. Joy, how does a cricket lover like you, an academician like you, look at these games? What's to look forward to in these games?
Look, South Africa, Afghanistan now. What happens if Afghanistan wins? If Afghanistan wins, you're still in a position where they're not going to qualify. They will reach it, but the odds of the number coming right, they might end up on 10 points, but they still will not be able to make it because the odds are the amount of runs in which the victory that you need is almost impossible to get. So I think you leave that match out of it. What will happen is that Bangladesh must see that even if they lose to Australia, they lose by a margin that doesn't drop them below Sri Lanka.
Yeah. So minus 0.3, how much would that mean approximately, Joyda? 60 runs they can manage to lose by?
Yeah, they should limit it, I think, depending on who scored how much first. Yeah, about 35-40 runs should be.
Well, Australia on a high, but this one, though, belongs to New Zealand. Their bowlers did the job, their batters did the job. Rain did not allow them to beat Pakistan after scoring 4-0-1. But safe to say that the reset button has been pressed for New Zealand after those losses.
I wouldn't go as far as saying the reset button is set, but they had a good game today. They did all departments well. Bowling, they started brilliantly, got 3 wickets. Batting, they started well. Great intent. Conway came back into runs. A lot of plus points. But it's been their mantra actually. In 2019, it's very similar. They've lost 4 on the bounce, went to the semis, just beat Pakistan by net run rate. And as we all know, beat India. and they went to the final, and what a game that was. So they now know this is what you want to get to. It doesn't matter how you play the league stages. What matters is how you turn up on 15th November, and that is all they'll be thinking about. They have a break now. They'll rejuvenate, take a few days off, and then start preparing in Bombay. They have not played in Bombay so far. I know I'm counting my chickens a little too early, but I do feel that New Zealand shouldn't have any problems qualifying, and that is going to be one big game on the 15th of November.
We will come to you for that big semi-final between India and mostly it's going to be New Zealand. But just the way they started this chase, Joy, 86-run partnership between Devon Conway and Rachin Ravindra, just the manner in which they scored the runs, it looked like they were never really...
No, absolutely. Calm, professional. They threw their best bowlers, Madhushanka, Thikshana up front. They scored throughout it. And that's the point, that you see 5 wickets down, you think, this could have been a bit of a dodgy chase. The truth is, they lost that wicket at 82 or 88, somewhere there in the 80s. The next wicket was at 130. And by that time, the game is literally over. After 130, even if you lose 2 or 3 wickets between 130 and 170, it's not going to bother them very much. So at that point in time, they're just trying to finish it off as soon as possible. So once you make that first 80-odd run partnership, you've already made your team reasonably safe.
Conway was the one that started the fireworks up top. He went after Madhushanka as well. A few cracking shots and they always looked in control. We didn't see any random frivolous shots from them. There can be that temptation, right, on a ground like this where you can get ahead of yourself and you try to hit too many big shots, but Conway seemed to be in the mood today.
Some lovely classical shots. He's one of those good-looking players as a left-hander who has a great flourish with his cover drive and his flick. Plays the ball on the leg side really well. Terrific batter. Been very consistent for New Zealand. Started well this World Cup. Just that he lost steam a bit midway, but he's picked it up today. It was good to see him do what he does. We've seen what he's done in IPL as well. Quite the batsman. And in the last 2 years that New Zealand have had him, they've found a lot of success under Conway.
We've been speaking so much about Rachin Ravindra and his maturity. Another sample of what this man is all about, a thinking cricketer, goes past Sachin Tendulkar as the highest run scorer for a player below the age of 25. He's inching closer to that 600 mark, Joy.
No, absolutely. He is. He's had a fabulous tournament. And even today when he batted, he took on Dhananjay De Silva, he took on everybody. He took on Chamira. And all his shots were different. He's hit 1-6 over, he's on the offside, 1 slog sweep, 1 over deep mid wicket. He's just played every stroke there in the book and he's made sure that the run rate was never an issue. 3 sixes out there, 125 strike rate. Literally, just exactly what the captain ordered for the team.
Daryl Mitchell came in at number 4 and today he was in the mood to come across as Don Mitchell. It was that kind of innings.
He is making a habit out of hitting a boundary in the first ball and a big shot at that. He played that against Bangladesh and asserted himself. Today it was the reverse sweep that he chose as an option and he batted beautifully. He has one of the most beautiful swings when he steps out and very consistent with that, be it offside or leg side. Lovely player. Bats a lot like Ricky Ponting, I thought, and he looks the player that can cause a lot of trouble to opponents through the middle because he bats at a very good tempo as well. Got a lovely 100 against India in Dharamshala. A very, very good find yet again, done well in Test cricket, and he's showing his prowess for New Zealand time and time again.
And he's buying dinner for Mark Chapman?
Yeah, I'm sure he would. Mark wasn't happy, but and Mark was promoted in the order specifically to make sure they got it as fast as possible. So, you get a rare chance to bat in that position, 30-40 runs, reasonable target. So he would have felt very hard done by, especially because I thought the call, DK, was very early from Chapman's side.
Yeah, so basically it goes behind, so it's the batter's call. But as soon as he doesn't know where the ball is, he's turned, looked at it and said no. When the batter says no from the outset, you have to find a way to stop and go back, which Daryl Mitchell didn't do because he thought he was committed into the run and felt there's no way going back. And then in a way, Mark Chapman had to sacrifice his wicket.
So as I said, lesson for life, no means no.
No means no. Well done.
Sorry, I had to say it.
And the junior player typically has to sacrifice.
Not always, not necessarily. It's happened the other way as well. But Mark Chapman in this case realized that, okay, let him, he's already set. And it is just understandable, but he was fuming, that was for sure.
Glenn Phillips scored 17 of 10. Tom Latham as well, 2 of 2. He was there when New Zealand crossed that finish line. From a bowling perspective, there isn't really much else that Sri Lanka could have done. They sent their best bowlers in up top, but then the Kiwis were just too good in that chase.
A bit of an off day for Madhushanka, got that edge of Devon Conway, keeper couldn't hold on to it, was touched too wide, understandable, but it was a rare off day for Sri Lanka, and Madhushanka having an off day meaning Sri Lanka gets blown away, and that's what happened. They batted at over a strike rate, run rate of 7, and you can see none of the other bowlers could have the impact that Madhushanka could have up top. And also what's interesting is he's very good to the right-handers, but not probably as effective as he is to the left-handers. So that was shown today. Both those batters making good knock. Again, good shots, but that catch could have probably changed the spell a bit. But so it is. But definitely the best bowler for Sri Lanka.
Yes, just not enough runs on the board, I suppose, for Sri Lanka. End of the World Cup campaign for them. 9 matches, just 2 wins, 7 losses. Asia Cup finalists blown away by Mohammad Shami. Surely, none of us expected them to just win 2 matches. And look at those losses, Joy. These are not small losses. By 100 runs, by 300 runs, 3 wickets, 5 wickets, 6 wickets. These are massive losses. So clearly, it's been a horrible, horrible campaign for Sri Lanka.
It's been a tough campaign for them. It's been a very tough campaign for them. Remember, it's also riddled with injuries. They had no sort of consistency. Shanaka gone. You keep losing players. I mean, you've got injuries throughout the squad. And you never just got any kind of rhythm. Also, Madhushanka was the only bowler who then Pathirana goes out of the attack. Their batsmen, they depended so much on Mendes Pereira to give them starts. Yeah. Mendes started very well, but then he went off. So only Pathum Nissanka and Samaravira Vikrama were giving them runs. So you can't have just 2 batsmen firing in a batting order in a World Cup where, you know, teams are scoring 300 runs regularly and expect to do well.
They missed their first choice, 4 first choice bowlers at the Asia Cup. Wanindu Hasaranga was one of them, clearly not part of the World Cup. Is that one of the key reasons why the bowling didn't look as solid as it could have if he was around?
If you want to dissect Sri Lanka, let's be honest about it. Wanindu Hasaranga is a big miss, Chamira is a big miss. But Wanindu Hasaranga not being there, still they got to the Asia Cup final, so that can't be the excuse. What has really troubled them is their batting. Yeah. Through the middle, Shanaka and Dhananjaya De Silva have really struggled through Asia Cup and at the start of the World Cup. Then Shanaka went out of the World Cup, but through the middle stages of the World Cup, Charit Asalanka and Dhananjaya De Silva didn't get enough runs, and that has been an Achilles heel for them throughout. And just the one bowler, they never were venomous through the middle between 11 and 40 as a bowling unit. That showed as well. One of the poorest teams in the back end between 41 and 50 as well. So they leak runs at the bottom, they leak runs in the middle, they don't pick up enough wickets. And when it comes to the middle of their batting as well, they're decent up top, but middle they've been very, very ordinary. So there are many areas for them to address, batting and bowling, and it's been a very, very hard campaign which has come to an end, and rightly so.
The cricket board has been sacked. There is an interim arrangement in place. Typically, when a sports team loses a big tournament, the words heads will roll are often used by cricket fans, or sports fans all across. Do you see Chris Silverwood being at the receiving end of tough calls?
To be honest with you, heads will roll in this case for the board. If whatever little I have read of it, and I think it comes from Cricbuzz, which is a fairly authoritative source on these matters, whatever has happened with the cricket board should have happened. There's been the kind of things that if any of those accusations or the things that are written out there are true, it had to happen. Look, I think Silverwood has done very well with the kind of resources that he's had at his disposal. At this point in time, he doesn't have enough resources. And I think it was a brave campaign for them to qualify. Remember, they came through qualifying. Okay, them and Netherlands were the 2 teams who came through qualifying. So they did a good job of qualifying out here. But look, you're at this point in time, you just came up against teams who are far better than you. You're missing a big bowler and none of your batsmen fired other than two batsmen fired.
It's also interesting that the 2 teams that came out from World Cup qualifiers, Netherlands and Sri Lanka, are bottom placed in this table. It tells you where international cricket is. The top 8 teams still, for some strange reason, are the top 8 teams. These 2 are at the bottom of the pile, and add a few more teams which will soon be there. 11, 12, 13, 14. You have Nepal, West Indies, Ireland, Scotland. It is a tough place for Sri Lanka to be there, better than that.
Mahela Jayawardene is also part of that think tank. He's the consultant coach of the Sri Lankan team. I'm sure he'll be part of that team that will dissect or perhaps do a certain post-mortem of how things have gone. Are there any pluses? Are there any positives that Sri Lanka can take from this campaign? 100%. Are there players that they look at saying, at least we've got XYZ players who should be part of the future?
3 players. Up top, Patum Nisanka. He's been getting 450s on the bounce, and almost a fifth 50 tells you that he is a batsman that they can rely on. And in the big moments, add Sadira Samaravikrama, who played a lovely knock against Netherlands, helped them cross the line, batted beautifully against England. The two games that they won, he was quite the player, and across the tournament, he's been very good. He's also a wicket keeper who plays Test cricket, another one they can earmark for the future. And in the bowling department, there is no doubt Dilshan Madhushanka has been a revelation. Still the highest wicket taker this tournament. Might not end up being that, but for the moment, these are the three big finds for them in this World Cup.
There's Dunit Velelage as well, who was impressive at the Asia Cup.
In the Asia Cup, hasn't done anything here, hasn't had the opportunity here, but definitely impressive. There's somebody they have also earmarked for the future, and definitely they see him there. And to be honest with you, I also see his batting improving.
Yep.
I see him coming somewhere close to being a bowling all-rounder rather than just a pure bowler. So look, the team composition here didn't allow him, the pitches, team composition, what they had didn't allow them to play him very often. But I think he's also one for the future they're definitely looking at. I think Sri Lanka has got them 1 century somewhere. Obviously, he's one of my favorite players. I like the way he plays, but that's the point. At just 1 century, they'll be looking at him and saying, you know what, for your potential, you need to do far more than this.
Well, most of our viewers are from India. In any case, by any chance, if there are any Pakistanis watching, here's a very, very bitter pill for you to swallow. Pakistan, to qualify in their last league game, have to beat England by 287 runs, or they have to chase down whatever England score in 16 balls.
I think that's that, isn't it? There's not much else to say. I think you summed it up really well. It's quite impossible to do that.
Yes, and unfortunately, Pakistan's losses in the early part of the tournament, all those collapses, perhaps not helping their cause. If only they had won that one game, that one DRS call, maybe they'll look back at that one DRS call against South Africa, I think it was. If that had gone in their favour...
I think they shouldn't look at it that way. They should look at it at the other games and say why they haven't fought like they did in that South African game. That's how they should be saying they are a team which is way more better than what this table suggests, which is they've lost 4 on the bounce, and that's not the team Pakistan is. I can understand they had a tough game against India, but the way they played against Australia, the way they played against Afghanistan, their fielding, these are the areas that they would look and go, you know what, there are areas that we really need to improve, and that has been the tale for Australia so far, or rather Pakistan so far in this World Cup.
Much to learn for them as well, Pakistan?
Much to learn from them, disappointing, simply because, we've thought that they had one of the finest bowling attacks, and, their bowling has just let them down tremendously. Yeah. I mean, Shaheen Shah Afridi, of course, they have missed one of their top bowlers. Naseem Shah is a huge loss, but I mean, you still had a lot of... Hassan Ali didn't have a particularly bad World Cup. It's not that, they didn't have the bowling. But Harry Strauss was completely off. Shaheen Shah Afridi, look, he's got 15, 16 wickets. I think he's up there in wickets. But that's a bit misleading because he's got bunches in matches which didn't matter, in situations that didn't matter so much. So he's not got important wickets for them in important places. And if they look at that table, the one match they'll turn around and say they should not... That match against Afghanistan, the way they lost, that would have been a really, really bitter pill.
And also... there's always a lot of comparisons, but just to say how strong India is as a team, not in this format. In this tournament, they've been the best by a distance. If you take the previous 2022 World Cup that was held in Australia, the T20 World Cup, we missed Bumrah.
Yeah.
Naseem Shah is not what Bumrah is to India. But still, we managed to qualify to the semis rather comfortably. Yep. We got blown away in the semi-final. That's a completely different issue altogether, but we did qualify comfortably. Pakistan lost one Naseem Shah and they failed to compete in a lot of the games. So, there is a massive bridge there. He's a very good bowler, make no mistake about that. But to just lose one bowler and, be completely blown away in the tournament is a tad bit unfair, I feel.
If one were to take a very objective, neutral, very balanced view of why Pakistan lost, maybe that Fakhar Zaman injury at the wrong time, start of the tournament, they dropped him as well. Then the injury, Imamul Haq couldn't score runs, Abdullah Shafiq a positive. So Naseem Shah missing out and Fakhar Zaman getting injured or being dropped. Perhaps the two key reasons, because at times it's that one or two...
So I said, though, I think there's one other key reason. You just had to get more production between 11 and 40 from Haris Rauf, Shadab Khan and Mohammad Nawaz. I mean, that middle 11 to 40 Pakistan was in no control of. Their spinners gave them nothing. Then finally they changed the spinners. But that was the problem, that if their spinners did not control the middle, between 11 and 40, Pakistan always leaked runs. Even if you see the match against Afghanistan, Once Afghanistan got going and they managed to weather an early storm, then they knew that they could just bat at 5-6, 5-6. So every team knew that if against Pakistan you get past the first 10, after that it's not that difficult at all. And I think that's a serious issue for them.
Middle over was an issue with the bat as well because they seemed very timid, very defensive. They weren't able to take advantage of just 4 outside. And especially against spinners of the opposition teams, we hardly saw any singles being taken. So is Pakistan playing an outdated brand of ODI cricket?
They have a template which is not probably followed by other teams like in Australia or England, but that doesn't mean they have a bad template. What was happening is their lack of form with the ball showed. Haris Rauf was a massive miss for them. He was somebody who was touted to be the most important bowler who could bowl through the middle, pick up wickets and at the death, but he leaked a lot of runs in his first and second spell. And then it was Shadab Khan. He was the biggest miss for them this tournament. Just couldn't pick up wickets. Was a pale shadow of his past, and that really showed why Pakistan struggled. You got to remember, 6 years ago, they beat India in ICC Champions Trophy, and they have the same Shadab Khan who played there, and he was brilliant. And today, when he's out of form, it just looks like they're really struggling to pick wickets through the middle. When it came to the batting, they were still searching for their openers. Fakhar Zaman obviously has done well in this last game, but you got to understand, through the Asia Cup, at the start of this tournament, he was searching for form and he was really struggling. They really banked on Imamul Haq, who got a few 90s in the lead up to the tournament, not so many hundreds, but he struggled through the tournament. It was very heavily dependent on Babar, who by his standards actually had a very ordinary tournament. Rizwan was their best batter. Iftikhar was quite a revelation as an all-rounder. But other than that, you must say that there's been more misses than hits. And Shaheen Shah Afridi was patchy. Was good when he did well, and was really ordinary when on the days that he didn't go well.
We will talk about Pakistan's leadership and possible changes in personnel when England play Pakistan a little later. That will be their last league game. But from an India perspective, there's a scar that's waiting to be healed since 4 years. It's India versus New Zealand. Once again, what's your hunch?
Look, it's in Bombay. The one big decision that they will have to take is whether if they win the toss, that is, whether they bat first, so that's a big game and put pressure on New Zealand, or bowl first because they'll be due, but then they have to get past that first spell. That first 10 overs, the ball swings and moves, so that's a big decision for them. There is no question about what the 11 is going to be till the final now. It's going to be the same 11 that they're playing as we see it today. So the questions that India have are, what do they do if they win the toss? Other than that, I think everything else is in auto mode. Every player has ticked a box and is looking good for the semis.
There's a certain scary surety about this Indian side, isn't it? It's just amazing why a lot of us are in disbelief seeing India play so well.
Yeah, no, they've been playing really well. They've also, other than the first match, not really collapsed. I mean, 10 for 3 just the first match, and after that, even the batting has stayed up. Bowling has been outstanding. It's the best bowling by a very far margin. And what you look at there, it's not the wins, it's the margins of victory. 100 runs, 302 runs, 243 runs. And if you see it, we've been dominating both batting first and batting second. And that's a rare combination. So we've started all chasing. And then we've sort of setting targets and we're just blowing them away.
I do think, I'm going out on a limb to say this is probably the strongest team India's ever had in ODI format. In a World Cup for sure. There is no team that's dominated like this current 2023 Indian team. And you have to pit it against other Indian teams which have done very well, but it will run other teams very close to being the greatest ODI team ever played in terms of performances and domination.
I totally agree with you. In fact, the only team for me which is close is 1985 Champion of Champions team. They won all their matches, but remember, there were just 5 matches there. And while they won all their matches, at least 2 were tight. Again, the New Zealand semi-final was tight. And the first match against Pakistan, we were 27 for 3 before Azharuddin and Gavaskar scored runs. But that team, if you look at it, is also an interesting team because Roger Binney, the perfect bowlers for that format. Kapil Dev, Roger Binney, Lakshman Shivakrishnan used to get that much of turns. Sadanand Vishwanath was a keeper, batted till 7. That was perhaps as good a team as you see. I still think this team, their performances are better. I mean, just in pure performances, I think these are better than even. The batch of 85 is the only thing which you have any comparison with.
Well, 1.4 billion Indians hoping, believing that 8-0 will become 11-0. More of the same from India for 3 more matches. Their last league game against Netherlands and then the semi in Mumbai, and hopefully, possibly that big final on the 19th of November. Against who, you might ask? Two options: South Africa versus Australia is going to be that second semi-final. But South Africa play their last league game against Afghanistan. That's going to happen tomorrow. South Africa coming off a loss. They lost to India, blown away by the Indians. Should they be worried, or should they look at that as a one-off and just look at the previous wins?
There's always a question whenever the team loses, it should be a one-off. It is a one-off, but it was a massive one-off. I think India just blew them away in all departments. I saw Temba Bavuma not understanding conditions well. There was a time when he could have attacked a lot more with Keshav Maharaj. Keshav Maharaj didn't take the onus to say, I want to attack. Rather, he chose to be the defensive bowler who will stop runs. That was a pitch that he needed to pick wickets. He didn't do that. They missed a gamble there. I was on air and I felt that that is the turning point. That spell where he bowled 10 overs on the bounce without picking up a wicket. Just the one wicket in the first over. Didn't choose to pick up a wicket after that by putting aggressive fields. And that changed everything in India's favour. And then, the rest is history because they just blew South Africa away. Two teams that play tomorrow, South Africa and Afghanistan. Both teams have got blown away for very, very different reasons. One, genuinely the match. Another, mentally blown away, I would say. So it's quite an interesting game. Both teams have not too much to lose. I think we know that Afghanistan is probably definitely not getting the semi-final. So, it's a game of academic interest. But I would like South Africa to chase because that is something that they could encounter come Kolkata again. So, they're playing in Ahmedabad tomorrow, so why not chase it?
Big toss as well in this game. Now, when a team is qualified, do you play safe, do what's working for you, or do you say, let me try and experiment a little bit? Or is it too late? Is it too scary to experiment against a team like Afghanistan, especially when you're coming off a massive loss against India?
Look, I'll be honest with you. I think Temba Bavuma would like to lose the toss tomorrow.
It's amazing. I was just thinking that. That is the best thing to happen. I think they should just have no choice. They should just go to play the game because if you win and bat first and then you win easily, then they'll be like, why didn't you chase? If the semi-final doesn't go your way. On the other hand, if you do chase and by chance you miss the bus again, then they're going to be like, you've lost 2 on the bounce, so are you losing momentum? So the best thing would be to lose a toss. And I don't think there's any better match for that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And it's a very difficult situation. Exactly as he did, it's a very difficult situation as a captain. You will be cursed for doing it either way. Whatever happens, you're in. But that's the situation. You see, nobody doubts the talent of this South African team.
Yeah.
But what they do, the two things is that when they, even the match that they lost against the Netherlands and the match they lost against India, they just, when they collapse, they seem to just, like India, when they collapsed at 10 for 3, somebody held it and somebody went on.
Yeah.
That's something that didn't happen with them in the matches they lost. And I think that is something that they'll worry about, saying that when we go down, we seem to go down in a heap.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there who's holding it. And he's made a very, very fair point because at that point in time, two things about the way India played and the way South Africa played are very different. One was the way Rohit, realizing that this is a slow pitch, attacked up front. Because what happened was, even when he got out, what's the run rate? It's 9 and 10 then. Then even if I play Maharaj out for 10 overs, I can afford to, because once he's gone, I'll attack the rest. And they did that. And if you remember how well Shreyas and Rohit attacked after that.
Yep.
But again, what he said, it's Maharaj didn't try and take wickets. Had he come in closer, got in more close-in fielders, had taken a chance and said, okay, hit me over mid-off. Take a chance against me. He didn't take that many chances.
Does Maharaj need another spinner alongside? Do they continue with Tabraiz Shamsi, or do they look at bringing in Kodzi against Afghanistan tomorrow?
I have a feeling there's going to be a forced change anyway because Ngidi just limped away at the end of that game. So Coetzee could come in for Ngidi and they'll stick to the same 11 other than that.
For Afghanistan, though, their approach against the one-legged monster, Mad Max, Glenn Maxwell, was talked about a lot. Everyone went gaga about that Maxwell innings, but truth be told, their bowling against Maxwell, who was struggling, was a bit bizarre. So lessons from that bowling performance, what do they not have to do? What should they not do against the South Africans?
I wouldn't say it was bizarre, the bowling attack. I'll tell you a few things. One, there was dew on the ground. And that pitch was probably the best pitch to bat on at that stage. So no matter where you bowled, if you're able to literally stand there without moving your feet and keep hitting sixes, if you hit 1 or 2, it's different. If you keep hitting sixes, that means he's played an absolute blinder. It's not going to happen too often. The pitch has been pristine, to say the least. And the bowlers, they bowled full, I agree. But if you're going to tell me that if they had bowled short and they would have gotten away, I'm not going to believe it, because then you have to set different fields. If you're setting different fields, you would have found different gaps. I will just say Afghanistan bowling with the skills they had as medium pacers, they are very dependent on their spinners. And when they didn't pick wickets, it was always going to be a problem. It was a game that was Maxwell's game through and through. But it's a game that definitely will blow them away mentally, not for anything else. If they had won that game, they had a great chance of going into the semi-final. All they needed to do was beat South Africa. Now they know, with that game being lost, that hope is done.
Do they need to make that change? Do they need to bring in Fazal Faruqi and maybe in place of, say, Noor Ahmed?
Look, I don't think Fazal Faruqi for Noor Ahmed. We are playing in Ahmedabad. I'd say Noor Ahmed plays for the Gujarat Titans. I think he knows the pitch. I think they will definitely, because they'll want to win this match no matter what happens. I think the way Afghanistan is looking at it, the kind of wins they've had, they want to win this match as well. I'd definitely stay with Noor Ahmed out there. The one problem that they've had, to be honest with you, is the fact that their top spinners have not really got wickets. So your highest wicket taker is 9 wickets. Rashid Khan has 8 wickets, 9, 8, 7, 8. Where the top teams, if you see the Bumrahs and Shamis, they're on 15, 13, 12. So it's a lack of wickets, and the lack of wickets from their spinners which is really holding them back. I mean, Omarzai has been more than useful for them, but if you're expecting Omarzai to consistently get you wickets, that's not the attack. It's their spinners which is supposed to do the bulk of their work, and that hasn't happened. And I think that's one of the things that they'd like to address. I mean, given the way their batting has happened, 2 batsmen over 300, 3 batsmen in that 280, 270 to 300 range. I think their middle order has batted beautifully.
Yep.
Given that, I think the spinners have just been a little bit tad disappointing given what the batters have done.
Would you like Faruqi in?
No, I'll stick to Noor Ahmed. He's got the skills, he's got the experience in playing Ahmedabad, hence.
Players to watch out for, one each.
I'll go for South Africa, Henrik Larsson.
Okay.
And for Afghanistan, I will be looking at Noor Ahmed.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go with Markram, and I really think Rashid Khan needs to have a big game sooner rather than later.
So that is that on the preview. Time now to look at the joy factor question that we asked you at about 1:59 p.m. this afternoon.
Okay.
Joy, all yours.
Yeah, so very rare to have a player who plays for Mumbai, Railways, Rajasthan and Bengal. He made his ODI debut with 10 members of the opposing team. In that country, obviously, everyone has just started playing international cricket. The only one who wasn't, of course, this is South Africa. The only one who wasn't was Kepler Wessels, who had played international cricket before for Australia.
So Praveen Amre, is it?
It's Praveen Amre.
Well done.
It is Praveen Amre, absolutely right.
Has to be a 90s kid that got this one, I think. Or maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out.
And yes, who
The
is
answer
it?
is, the winner is
Sudarshan Nair. He's won quite a few.
regular.
Yeah, absolutely regular, and it's a good answer. I like this answer because it requires you to think a little bit more and then wonder why 10, why not 11? Then you're going to think that, why should there be 10 guys? And you say, okay, no, Kepler Wessels has played before.
At IamSud_99 will get a thumbs up. Take a screenshot when Joy does this. Joy.
I can't get the expression that you do. I'll do it, but I don't have your expression.
DK, while you're here. Yeah. We got that poster. For the day, we are done. Who's coming in tomorrow? No, you're off.
Yes, I have an off tomorrow.
And the great news is that Michael Vaughan has taken time off from his wonderful relationship with Wasim Jaffer to come to our studio. I know he's very busy with Wasim, but he's actually decided
His
to
new
spend some
muse
time.
is Mohammad Hafiz.
Mohammad Hafiz is also there.
More on Hafiz, Wasim Jaffer. No, we shall only focus on South Africa and Afghanistan, the two teams. We will be looking ahead to that game. Remember, Cricbuzz Live goes on air sharp at 1:30 p.m. We're never late. We never get timed out. So make sure you join us at 1:30 as well. We are done. It's an early finish. Thank you, New Zealand. Good luck for whatever you do. Maybe not for the semi-finals, but good luck with everything else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.